So, it's been, I don't even know, several months since I've made a video on this channel. Actually feels very strange sitting here talking to a camera again when I haven't done it in months. I have moved to a new flat now. I didn't make a single video, I think, in the flat that I lived in previously to this. It's been a time, it's been crazy, but I just wanted to come on. It's Friday the 22nd of April. It is nearly 10:30 p.m. It is the day that Heartstopper has just come out on Netflix this morning at 8 a.m. and I have just finished it all and I needed to come and talk about it. This lighting is atrocious, my skin is awful, my room is a mess because I have not fully unpacked yet from moving. I literally moved here 2 days ago, but I'm here and I needed to talk about Heartstopper. So just to let you know, this isn't going to be spoiler free. Please don't watch this if you're interested in watching Heartstopper and you haven't read the books yet. If you don't want to know anything that happens, come back and watch this later. This isn't going to be spoiler free because I just need to talk about it. 3 years ago, I read Heartstopper for the first time and it instantly meant so much to me. I just have such a personal connection to those books. I relate to them so much. Watching this series again 3 years later has kind of just made me realise how much I do relate to this story, even though it's about a 15 and a 16-year-old boy. I love it so much. I could be here all day talking about how much I love it. I have reviewed the books in the past. One of my most popular videos is my review of Heartstopper 1 and 2, which was over 2 years ago now, almost 3 years ago by this point. I have written a blog post as well that I'll link below, all about why the rep in Heartstopper means so much to me as well. It's just dominated my life for the past 3 years. So watching this show today has just, oh my god, I was such a mess. Nothing ever makes me cry. People that know me know that hardly anything makes me cry. And I have welled up so many times and then had a full-on cheek tear in the last 10 minutes of the final episode. So as I was watching, I was sort of making a bunch of notes. I don't know if you can see on here, but I have a lot of notes. So, yeah, this is going to be a mess of a video. This is not going to be structured in any way. I have literally finished the last episode about 15 minutes ago at this point, and I instantly just turned on my camera, found a nice spot to film, and yeah, I'm here and I just need to talk about it. So let me just talk about some of the things that I loved. First off, there is nothing that I disliked about this series, so it's not like this is what I liked, this is what I disliked. Absolutely nothing. It was perfect. Honestly, perfection. You can tell that Alice Oseman had so much of a big part in the making of this series because it is just perfect. It is the best adaptation of anything I think I've ever seen in my life. So I'll just really quickly run through some of the things that I loved. The leaves, to start with, the animated leaves and the comic panels that were animated. So cool, so perfect. It gave it that graphic novel vibe that I just absolutely loved. I remember when it was in production quite early on and Alice was posting on Instagram and stuff a job ad for an animator, and I was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. What are they doing with animating then? I wonder what sort of animations they're going to put in it. And it just made it so perfect. The leaves flying around, the energy sparks, when particularly the bit where Nick and Charlie are sitting on the sofa watching a film really early on, and Nick is like, he wants to touch Charlie's hand, and there's all these like sparks coming off his hand, like a big warm energy orb, and then it like breaks as soon as Nick takes his hand away. So cool. I loved it so much. Oh, and then yeah, between scenes with the comic panels where it would like jump, and like one point it all fractures, and oh my god, it was so cool. I feel like I'm tearing up talking about the flipping animation in this series. Oh, I'm such a mess. I love this series so much. The casting, I have to talk about the casting. Absolutely perfect. Literally spot on, down to like literally every single character. There was not a single character I wish was cast differently. Nick and Charlie, absolutely incredible. Like, okay, rude, my SD card was full, so I've just spent the past 10 minutes trying to make space on it. I'm back. So, okay, I've just come back to a million Instagram notifications because I mentioned that I finished Heartstopper, and now everyone's freaking out that I finished Heartstopper. Okay, let's continue. Where was I? Impeccable casting. Yes. Okay, so this is where I said spoilers may come into effect if you haven't seen it yet. Olivia flippin' Colman, like Academy Award winning Olivia Colman as Nick's mum. Apparently, someone told me earlier that this has been spoiled in the past, the casting. I have not seen it anywhere. So I saw an Instagram post earlier about it and I was just like, Olivia Colman? Did not know that. Stephen Fry as the voice over the school sort of tannoy announcer thing. Incredible, especially during sports day in the final, last but one episode, I think? Final episode? Yeah, final episode. Amazing. His art teacher, like Charlie's art teacher, Tori, amazing. Tao, Elle, Tara, Darcy, all of them, every single person. The casting was just impeccable. Like, perfect. I loved it. I loved everyone so much. Amazing. Nellie? I love Nellie. Oh, seeing Nellie, like, live, like actual live action dog Nellie, I was very excited about, and it paid off. She was so flippin' cute and fluffy, and oh, Nellie, I love her so much. Next, the story. I love how the story, especially in the first couple of episodes, switched between you've got Nick and Charlie at their school, and then it switched to like Tara and Darcy and Elle at the girls' school, and it was kind of just switching between the two before they start to really like intertwine with each other. It was really cool to get both stories almost separately. It was a really good way to sort of introduce us to all of those characters, and I think the way that they talked about Elle moving from the boys' school to the girls' school when she transitioned was done really well. It wasn't this sort of like, no one went on about it for ages and ages. It was just sort of mentioned, like, you just put the pieces together yourself and be like, oh cool, so Elle used to be at the boys' school and is now at the girls' school, and they were just saying like she obviously isn't here anymore because she wouldn't have fit in here. I thought that was really cool. I'm so glad we've got a show like this with a trans character, that the story isn't about them being trans. They are just a trans character that is just in the story. Like, none of the story is about Elle being trans. And I know in the books it's touched on a little bit more later on, but in the series it was done so well and I really loved that. But yeah, all of their friendships, once they do start to get together, are just so, like, come together from the two schools are just perfect. Loved it so much. The messages that they're all sending each other, especially the messages between Nick and Charlie, were so perfect. And I think the doubts that they, not doubts, but the worries that they both have, especially for Charlie, where he's sort of like, he likes this boy that he presumes to be a straight boy, and he kind of puts in that that leading message where he's just like, oh, I'm so lucky to have a straight friend like you, or like, you're the best straight friend, or whatever he says. And then when Nick just replies with it, where he's just like, lol, no problem, and Charlie is like, oh, great, okay, wonderful. So he's just confirmed the fact that he's straight. I know exactly how he feels in that moment. Not even particularly with being, like, particularly messaging someone and hoping they're not straight. I mean, that's happened to me before too. There's people that I hope aren't straight and they are. It's every, like, queer person's nightmare, is fancying people that are straight. But just in terms of liking someone and not knowing if they're available, it's happened to me quite recently. Friends who I've spoken to about it will know. And just sending those leading messages to try and find out the answers and then getting the answer back that you don't want, is, yeah, it's kind of crushing sometimes. But yeah, I just related to all of their messages so much. And then later on you get Nick and his sort of bisexual struggle, where he is kind of like, he's doing all of his research into, like, am I gay? What is bisexual? Watching YouTube videos of people's story about how they knew they're bisexual. I have done all of this in the past. Every single thing. Made me laugh where it was kind of like when Nick's almost sort of like tearing up doing this research because he's kind of scared to discover this about himself. And then I was kind of tearing up a little bit watching him cry while doing it, and then instantly laughed when he started doing like BuzzFeed quizzes where it's just like, are you gay? Do this quiz to find out. That just made me laugh so much, because I feel like every sort of millennial Gen Z queer person has done a quiz like that, like a BuzzFeed quiz where it's just like, are you gay? And then it was just like, you are 62% homosexual. And it's just, it makes me laugh so much, but it also makes me remember the pain of doing things like that, just trying to find out what is going on inside your head. So I just felt for them so much. Tao and Elle, I have to talk about now. I loved how their friendship or their sort of relationship is progressing. I've kind of forgotten just how things like that progress in the books, but I just loved how they're just so good together. They're like such close friends. They're like best friends. But you can see that spark between them just naturally growing. And I think they've done that really well. I think a lot of things where it's like friends to lovers type trope can feel a bit forced. And you're just like, oh, okay. Like, I'm generally not a huge fan of like friends to lovers type thing. But the way that it's playing out with them is just so cute. And they've got this really natural spark between them. Tara and Darcy, talking about friends to lovers, friends that I just love so much. Tara and Darcy, I love them in the books too. I absolutely adore them. I've got one of Alice's prints where it's like Tara and Darcy with a pride flag, and I just love it. And I love them so much. I've loved them since I read the books. So their casting again was amazing in this, and the dynamic that they had was just so great, and I really loved the exploration of their relationship and their identities, as one of them who has been out for a while compared to one of them that isn't. I guess it's the same with Nick and Charlie as well, and I really liked that they had this sort of connection with Nick and Charlie where they know they've been through it already, so Nick could talk to them about it, and I just really loved that. But just the way that they were acted was just so great. I just loved them so much. I really loved the bit where Imogen said, like, I'm not homophobic, I'm an ally. And then Darcy just said, thank you for your service. And it just made me laugh so much. I love them. Talking about Imogen, another thing I really loved was how when Nick told Imogen that he isn't really interested in her for dating. I was going to say isn't interested for dating. It's late. It's nearly 11 o'clock. He likes her as a friend but isn't interested in dating her. And obviously she was a little bit taken aback at first, but I really love how it just made their friendship stronger. Like, that was really cool. It was like a nice lesson where it's just like, if you're honest with someone, then it could actually make your friendship better. And you saw them in school afterwards and they were like closer than they were before. They were kind of like really nicely chatting as pals. And oh my god, I will get to it when I talk about the bits that made me well up, but her look in the last episode when Nick took Charlie away, when Nick sort of left his rugby match and took Charlie by the hand and led him out, the look that Imogen gave them, just like, oh, it made me want to cry, because she's just so happy for them, and I really loved that so much. I loved that it just made their friendship even stronger rather than it ruining it. I love that Alice's handwriting was still all the way through it, because obviously if we've read the books, we have come to love or just become so familiar with Alice's handwriting all the way through the books, and it was in so many places. It was in the titles, it was on like the titles on screen, like the on-screen sort of titles throughout the episodes. It was in the credits, and I love also that the big sports day banner was also written in Alice's handwriting. Yeah, I just thought that was a really nice touch, and it kind of added to all the little leaves and things as well, the animations. It was really cool, and again, it was one of those things that just helps link it to the comics even more, like to the books. Yeah, that was really cool. It really did make it feel like we were just watching a perfect live action version of the books. Like, they've just taken the books and picked them up and put them on Netflix. Like, it was just just those little details, I think, make it even more familiar and make it feel even warmer for us who are the people that are obsessed with the books. I love how some of the lines of dialogue were identical to the books. My friend was watching it at the same time as me, and as scenes were happening, I had the books open next to me, and she hasn't read the books, but I was taking pictures of the pages as they were happening in the show, and I was sending her some of the pages, like, look, they're literally identical, like the way that they're framed and the conversations, like the dialogue in the books, some of the lines of dialogue, so many lines of dialogue are identical in the show, which is just so cool. This is where I said you can tell Alice has worked so closely on it, because they're just so, like, so many lines are just taken up, like, picked up from the book and just put in the show, and it was just like, you can easily just flick through the book and almost read it like a script as it's happening on screen, and I just loved that so much. It was really cool. Again, for lovers of the books, it's just that geeky moment of being like, oh my god, I recognise this particular frame. And one in particular that I actually took a picture of the book and then took a picture of my screen, was the bit at the end, the very end, where Nick and Charlie are lying on the beach and it sort of starts zooming out, like it's all animated around them, and it starts zooming out before the final credits roll, and that is just spot on. Like, it's almost frame for frame, like it's just, and all the dialogue is exactly the same, and I loved it so much. However, one change that I noticed that made me laugh so much was when they're in the cinema and Harry or one of his friends, one of his horrible bully friends, they mentioned Harry Styles, and I noticed in the book they reference Zayn Malik instead, and I love it so much that for the series they took out Zayn Malik and like replaced him with like the honestly better, more relevant One Direction member, and I love that so much. I feel like now it would be very weird if they mentioned Zayn Malik. It would be like, okay, weird. And it kind of goes to show that when the books were published, the first book or the second book was published, and 1D were probably still in full swing, I guess. I don't even know. And Zayn was sort of like the talking point. I think he was releasing his own music by this point, maybe. And people were obsessed with Zayn, and now he's sort of, I mean, sorry 1D fans if you're fans of Zayn, he has kind of faded into obscurity a little bit, but Harry Styles is just like the king of music right now. And that just made me laugh. Again, my friend who was watching it at the same time as me loves Harry Styles. She's obsessed with Harry Styles, and she messaged saying, I love the Harry Styles mention. And I said, right, I was waiting for you to get to this bit because I needed to tell you that in the book they mentioned Zayn and then they changed it to Harry Styles, and that just makes me laugh so much. They just replaced him with the better One Direction member. So funny. Oh my god, one bit. I laughed properly out loud a couple of times throughout this, and one thing that made me properly laugh was Tao's reaction to Nick telling him he should join the rugby team. Oh my god, please tell me if you know which bit I'm on about. It's just Tao's face. He conveys so much disgust just in his one facial expression when Nick tells him he should join the rugby team, and I just I loved it. I loved Tao. I remember seeing little clips of Tao before the show and being like, I don't really know what to make of him, and now that I've seen the whole show, I love him so much. He's perfect. But yeah, that one facial expression to Nick, just, oh my god, I properly laughed out loud. It was so funny. And then the Alice cameo on the train. When Nick takes Charlie on the train to the beach at the end, there's a little Alice Oseman cameo, which I just really loved. She's on the train, probably drawing on her iPad. I loved it. Nice little, really subtle Alice Oseman cameo. It's not like, I mean, I hate a cameo where it's like really disgustingly obvious that it's like this author cameo. Like, I mean, the one that I'm thinking of straight away is Stephanie Meyer in Twilight, and they literally, like, she's in the cafe that Bella and Charlie are in, and then this waitress comes over and she's just like, here's your burger, Stephanie. And then, like, when Bella and Edward get married in the last film, and like Stephanie Meyer's just in the audience and it just properly like zooms in on her face just looking at them. But in this one, I just loved how, if you don't know who Alice Oseman is, you wouldn't know that that's a cameo. You just think it's a random person on the train. But for us who know who she is, it was so nice to see a little Alice cameo, and I hoped that would happen, and they did it really well. I liked that. The one thing that I say I love, I don't know if that's the right word, I liked it because of the way that it was done, but it makes me so sad, is we start to see Charlie's mental health spiral, and obviously you can see why I say I don't love this, because I don't want his mental health to spiral, but knowing what we know, if you have read volumes 3 and 4, you will know that Charlie's mental health goes downhill. Yeah, I don't want to say too much in case people have read the first 2, ready for the series, and not read future ones, but we do, in the later books, we do start to see Charlie's mental health spiral quite a lot, and the 4th volume especially almost entirely deals with Charlie's mental health, and we started to see that a little bit, especially in the last episode or 2, where he was talking to Tori about how sometimes he wishes, I can't remember what it was exactly, but he was saying about how he feels like he shouldn't exist, and he started mentioning things about not wanting to eat, and I was just like, no, this is making me so sad, because as someone who, like, if you've read all the books, it foreshadows so much of what's to come, just in some really subtle ways that they managed to get it into the last episode. And that's why I say that I love how they did it, because they start to subtly plant the seeds that his mental health is sort of spiralling. But oh my god, if they have to deal with that in future series, if bits in this series made me cry, that is going to make me sob, because even just reading the book made me cry. So now that I'm already sort of welling up thinking about Charlie's mental health, I'm going to do a really quick, because I don't want this video to be miles long, let's do a really quick sort of quick fire round of all the things that made me well up throughout this this series, things that made me not sob. I didn't properly sob at all, but there were bits that properly made me well up, and then at some points an actual tear fell down my face. Some of these are going to be so small. They're going to be such tiny, inconsequential things. But I was emotional. I've been waiting for this series for a year, and the smallest things were just making me cry. So some of these things are going to be so small. So yeah, let's go. Nick and Charlie's first meeting in the classroom, when they first said hi and hi, instantly made me well up. I was like, oh my god, because this was the first few seconds of the show, and it was the first time it properly hit me, and I was like, oh my god, this is Nick and Charlie on the TV. My eyes are filling up with tears now. I've just dropped my phone. I'm a mess. When Nick pulled Charlie away from Ben, when Ben was being really disgusting to Charlie in the corridor when he told him to meet him outside the music classroom, and then Nick came along like a little hero and pulled him away from Charlie. Loved it, made me well up. When Nick told Charlie that he looked cuddly when he was in his blanket after he fell asleep on the sofa, and he said, you look really cuddly in that, and then he hugged him. Nick doing all of his searching, like, am I gay? Because just relatable. Tara and Darcy kissing on the dance floor at the party, and the look that Nick gave them. He's currently like wondering whether he should tell Charlie that he likes him, and he just saw Tara and Darcy kiss on the dance floor, and that made me sob anyway, because like, it made me well up anyway, because I'm so glad that they are open and they can do that, and it made me so happy. But then seeing the look that Nick gave them of just pure, it was just this huge smile that he had, like, yeah, go for it girls, like, I want to do that too. Again, made me cry. When Charlie told Nick that he pushed Ben into a wall and told him to go away, and Nick just looked so proud of him. The ballroom scene that I was waiting for, because it's how book one ends, and I was waiting for that scene, and oh my god, I was like, this was one of the moments where my eyes were just permanently filled with tears. And then when they kissed, and then Nick left because he heard his friends coming, and then Charlie was like crying, like properly sobbing in the car with his dad. Oh my god. Literally every time I recognised a frame from the comics, one in particular for some reason made me cry, was when they're in Charlie's bedroom and they kiss, and Charlie is in his socks and Nick's in his shoes, and then Charlie gets up on his tiptoes to reach Nick. That frame is perfect, like perfectly taken from the book. Made me cry. Nick crying on Charlie's shoulder after telling him about his bisexual crisis. Tao after he found out about Charlie and Nick, and he was devastated that they hadn't told him. Tori hugging Charlie, and then Charlie saying he's not very hungry so he'll eat later. Again, if you know what comes in the books later, that line hurt me. And just Tori being Tori, just being such a good big sister and giving him a big hug made me cry. Tao and Charlie making up on sports day and they hugged. Elle looking at Tao's landscape painting. That's it. She picked up his landscape painting off the drying rack and my eyes filled up with tears. Like, why? When Nick took Charlie's hand during the rugby match, and Imogen, as I said, Imogen looked at them, she gave them this look of just pure happiness, like a big smile, and she was welling up, and that made me cry. And then we finally get to the ending of episode 8 being exactly the same as the ending of book 2, and it included the trip to the beach and also Nick's chat with his mum. Oh my god, this whole last section I welled up a bit and then a bit more, and then this was when I just properly cried, like I had a tear down my cheek, and it was just Nick's mum's face where she was just like, thank you for telling me. And obviously I love Olivia Colman so much as well, and just her acting was just incredible, and that whole bit, just like him telling her and then it going back to the beach. You can see me welling up while I'm talking about it. Jesus Christ. And then they go back to the beach and then Charlie's just like, so now we tell everyone, I guess. And then it was that exact frame at the end that was exactly the same as the book. And I just started crying, I think, from about 5 minutes from the end, and just carried on crying until the very end. And then set up this camera and now here I am. Whew. Can't believe I've just been like welling up as I've been talking about it. So here we are. It's done. Heartstopper Series 1. I'm calling it Series 1 because it will be renewed. I have all the confidence in the world. Is done. I've watched it all. I currently don't have Wi-Fi in my new flat. I've bought unlimited data on my phone for the month, literally just so I can tether it to my laptop to watch Heartstopper. I don't even know what to say now. I'm probably going to rewatch it like this weekend and many more times afterwards and probably cry every single time. I can already feel my nose is running, my eyes have just been watering again. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Please tell me in the comments below what were your favourite moments. Have you read all the books? Have you read the next couple of volumes as well? I would love to talk to people that have read the next couple of volumes too. What were your favourite moments that have been taken from the books? Like, do you have very specific moments that you were hoping to see? And also please let me know what you thought of the new characters as well, Isaac and Imogen. I really loved them. Isaac was just adorable. I've now just been talking too long and the recording just stopped because I've been talking for too long. My god, I wanted this video to be short. Yeah, in case you're not aware, Aled, who was in the books, Alice Oseman didn't want to include him in the TV series just because his story within the Oseman-verse, all of her books, is so large. Like, he's also a really big part in Radio Silence, which is such a good book. And yeah, she said that she would have to make changes to his character that would completely screw up his whole character arc, which she didn't want to do because he's such a beloved character in her books that so many people love. So they replaced him with Isaac, with Isaac instead. And Isaac was just adorable. I just loved him. He was like this friend that didn't really have a massively important part to play in the show, but he was just there, and he was just there and adorable. He was like our little bookworm. He was constantly reading a book. And then Imogen, I think, was a really good addition as well. Bit of a wishy-washy character because you kind of don't really like her when she's trying to force Nick to go out with her. But I think she had really good growth, like I was saying earlier, with their friendship. And yeah, I just think she was a really good addition to the little group. So yeah, please tell me what you think of the characters and the casting and the new characters that aren't in the book. I just want to talk to you about Heartstopper. I just want to talk about Heartstopper forever. But right now it's 11:15 at night, so I should go to bed. But I'm probably just going to be scrolling through all of my millions of messages I've got from Instagram in the past 20 minutes while I've been recording. I hope you enjoyed. My battery's about to die, so this is good timing. And I will hopefully see you soon because I really do want to start making videos again. I think this was a good way to come back talking about my love of Heartstopper. I will see you soon. Bye!